Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. We made it to the end of the entire transfer window, and it came with a little bonus gift at the end of it in the shape of Joe Rodon. Really good deal for Tottenham, and a deal that on Thursday night wasn't going to happen. And then suddenly, Friday morning, things changed. Spurs kind of got word that Swansea were going to look to do the deal at a slightly more palatable price. It took all day though. It was a strange one. Joe Rodon actually came to Hotspur Way earlier in the day, and he was there. He did all of his stuff, all prepared in case the two clubs could do their last-minute negotiations and get it over the line, which they did. Only just, but they did. And it does kind of make you wonder how many times that they've done little videos, interviews, and photo shoots with players that actually never ended up joining the club. I'm sure many clubs around the world have probably done that, but it does make you think. So let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the deal for the 22-year-old former Swansea defender. Very talented young man. He's kind of one for the future, but hopefully also this season you might see a little bit more of him get some minutes. But we'll explain why that's actually a little bit difficult in a little bit. So, signed a 5-year deal. He'll take the number 14 shirt, which we know at Tottenham Hotspur has been worn by some rather wonderful players. Not normally centre-backs, but certainly some top players. The deal itself, I'm told, is £11 million plus add-ons, which for me, I think I may have said in a previous video, you're looking around the 10 million would be something maybe for a player like this. So I kind of got close. But Swansea wanted, we understand, around 18 million to begin with. And Spurs, being Spurs with Daniel Levy at the helm, they waited and they waited. They were only going to go for Joe Rodon. There was no one else they wanted in this window, like domestic window. They waited. And then Friday morning, on the day of deadline day, as I say, they managed to get that deal much more in their kind of range that they wanted to pay. And yeah, £11 million plus some add-ons, which I don't believe are the biggest add-ons in the world. It's fantastic for a young 22-year-old who a lot of people, he's got a lot of admirers. Gareth Bale and Ben Davies among them. They were very much pushing the deal behind the scenes and saying that Spurs should get him. You may have seen already the introductory video they did yesterday with Bale and Davies not letting him in the gates at first at Hotspur Way. It was very funny. Honestly, Spurs' social media team have absolutely upped their game this season. They've been superb. And another big part of the deal as well is a certain Jonathan Barnett. This kind of might go under the radar slightly, but Gareth Bale's agent, Jonathan Barnett, obviously helped broker the deal for Bale to come to Spurs. He owns the Stella Group, Stella Football, the agency part of it for football, who represent Joe Rodon. So there's that kind of link there, and he was involved with the deal as well and getting it over the line. And the player throughout wanted to come to Tottenham. It was just a case of being patient, and now he's here. And we'll talk a little bit about the transfer window later, but that's a 7th signing for Tottenham Hotspur. Bearing in mind, when I asked Jose Mourinho after the Palace game kind of what he foresaw coming in this transfer window, he said, it's not like, we're not going to go out and sign a £100 million player, and we're not going to sign 10 players. Signed 7. They got quite close to the 10 in the end. And we'll come to it later what Mourinho said about the transfer window, and I think there's a bit of a surprise from him as well. But the Rodon's a really good buy, a really good young player. Some people might ask why not keep Juan Foyth, but I think for Foyth it was a case of Mourinho just didn't seem to rate him, unfortunately. And despite what I think and some others who I do think he's got a great deal of potential, Mourinho clearly didn't rate him. And also, he needed lots of minutes to make sure that he remained an Argentina international, and he'll get that at Villarreal. So then it was a case of bringing in another young player. We know they wanted Milan Skriniar, but obviously as soon as that deal became one that they couldn't do, or at least couldn't do in this window, they thought, well, we've kept an eye on Rodon. He's a young player who's kind of, for now, can be great cover, but also for the future can be a real part of this defence. Let's make a move on that, but it has to be the right price. And he's a player who he'll learn from the likes of Alderweireld, Diane, Sanchez, and for the future, Spurs will see him. They see him kind of challenging Japhet Tanganga and being, that could potentially be the long-term partnership, For young players like Rodon, Tanganga, who's having some real injury issues at the moment, which is such a shame. It's really hampering his progress. But for Tanganga and Rodon to be coached not only by Jose Mourinho, one of the best defensive coaches in the world, Ledley King as well. If there's anyone you want to follow as an inspiration, Ledley King's your man. And he'll settle in quickly. Like I say, he's got Davies and Bale there. It's a really good signing. So now on the slight negatives. We know he came too late for the Europa League squad. He can't be registered for the group stages. He came a week after that squad had to be finalised and registered. And the other slight downside is that in January, or February technically, when if Spurs get through to the knockout stages, he would have to be registered as a non-homegrown player, which we know is an issue because already Jedson, Fernandes and Paulo Gazzaniga have had to be left out of Tottenham's Europa League squad for exactly that reason. So Spurs are going to have to either leave someone else out or move on a fair few players in the January window. And I know some people have found an old article, I think it was The Guardian did back in 2011, about Swansea and Cardiff becoming more affiliated with the English FA. And they said, well, that means that players now... Because let me explain, if you haven't seen this before. So Ben Davies can't be registered in Tottenham's Europa League squad because he's not technically... Sorry, he can't be registered as an association-trained player. Because while the Premier League sees Wales as part of the British FA, as it were, you know what I mean, British football, UEFA don't. They see it as a separate association to the one where the player is playing their football in. So Ben Davies came from Swansea, and there's some indications that because Swansea and Cardiff had slightly affiliated with the English FA, they play in English leagues, after 2012 that Rodon would be exempt from that and could actually be seen as an association-trained player. From what I understand from Spurs and also UEFA, it's not the case. That's not a thing, unfortunately. He is seen as a separate association player and thus will be treated as a non-locally trained player when Spurs have to register him in, it would be February if they get through. Pretty early February, I think, after the January window. And the other issue, obviously, is that he can't go on the B list. The B list are for players that either have been at Spurs from a young age or have been at Spurs for 2 years before their 21st birthday. Obviously, he's just joined and he's 22. So he's not someone they can kind of shoehorn in suddenly. So, which is a shame because, let's be honest, that would probably be where he's going to get the majority of his minutes he would have. A bit like Jedson Fernandes. So it's going to make things a little bit difficult. But for him... next few months are going to be about adapting it. You know, he's a very talented player. Got his Wales, I think 7 caps now. I think he's had 50 games in the Championship, but he has not played in the Premier League yet. That will be a new thing for him. So he's going to have to adapt to that. He'll get minutes. It's a real shame that he wasn't registered before the noon deadline on Friday because he could have then played on Sunday. But as it is, he was too late to feature against West Ham. And unfortunately, this weekend, Spurs probably could have done with him on that bench because... you know, we'll come to again later, but Eric Dyer's a little bit of a doubt for the weekend, and we know Tanganga's out as well. So Spurs are going to be a little light. Ben Davies is probably going to have to be the centre-back cover on Sunday, and they probably could have done with Rodon being on that bench. But yeah, other than that, it's a really good deal. You know, it's kind of getting back to the deals that maybe Spurs started to veer away from slightly. Young British talents. You know, they got back to it with Sessegnon, obviously. Hasn't quite worked for him yet. He's had to go off and develop at Hoffenheim, but I like the fact that they're getting back to that. They need to address that kind of British spine of the team, and obviously Bale coming in is going to do that as well. Actually, Joe Hart as well. Matt Doherty's not technically British, but you know he's from the, how do I put it, the United Kingdom plus Ireland. So they're kind of starting to lean back towards their way. And it's getting players that are used to English football as well. Whereas rather than taking gambles on foreign players who might not adapt. So yeah, everyone very happy within Spurs about that. There were a couple of outgoings yesterday. Cameron Carter-Vickers has headed off to Bournemouth on loan. Spurs, I understand, have taken up an option in his contract to extend his deal by another year. It would have ended next summer. Now he'll have another year when he comes back, which means Spurs don't lose him for nothing, essentially. I think Spurs probably would have preferred a permanent deal, but obviously I think they were also worried about, they were trying to get the Rodon deal over the line, and if he didn't, they would have needed Carter-Vickers as cover. They probably would have had to keep him. But as it was, they managed to get Rodon late on, which meant they had to do this late deal for Bournemouth, who have been interested for a while, but obviously there had to be that loan. It had to be done. And it'll be a great club for him. He had a terrific half season at Luton, did really well, helped them stay up, and hopefully this will be another move for him that will kind of help cement him as a, if he could help Bournemouth get promoted, there's every chance that Bournemouth would want to take him permanently as well, and would pay Spurs for that. I'm not sure. I haven't actually kind of asked around about whether there's an option to take him permanently. There may well be. I wouldn't be surprised if there is. But yeah, good move for Cameron Carter-Vickers. Josh Oluwayemi went out, 19-year-old goalkeeper. He's gone to Maidenhead United in the conference. People, you might think, oh, who cares, kind of thing. I know some people only really that bothered about the first team, but that's actually quite a significant little loan move because for young goalkeepers, it's very difficult to get them loans. It really is. I mean, you've seen Brandon Austin and Alfie Whiteman still at Spurs. I thought one of those might get a loan move, but they're both still around. Austin had to go out to Denmark last year to Viborg, have a loan in the second division out there. It's not the easiest thing to do, is because a lot of clubs maybe won't take a chance on a young, unproven goalkeeper. And obviously, at a club like Spurs, they're not going to get minutes. So to get Josh, who's a very talented young keeper, out on loan in the conference, he'll play hopefully week in, week out. Senior football, men's football, it can only be a real benefit to him. So I think that's a really good... Keep an eye on him. He's a talented lad, honestly. Seen if he's been playing a lot of under-23 matches in the last season or so. And I think he can really push on with that. Some players I was quite surprised didn't go out as well as Austin or Whiteman. George Marsh didn't go out. I know Mourinho quite likes him, and the club had kind of quite high hopes for him. I'm quite surprised that no one made that move. Did really well at Orient last season. Anthony Georgiou's another one who didn't go anywhere. He's had a couple of loans recently. I think he was at Ipswich as well, and I think he went out to Spain, I think, as well, didn't he, on a loan as well. So quite surprised they haven't gone anywhere. I do wonder whether what we'll see happening with them, they may just wait till January. It could be a case of they play with the under-23s for a couple of months and are there as cover for the first team if they need it. But that first team squad is so big now. I'd be surprised if they do get a look in. And one major player, obviously, that didn't go anywhere is Danny Rose. I know some people think he's his own worst enemy, and of course he's not the Danny Rose of old in terms of the way he plays since he got that knee injury. But there's a certain sadness to the way it's gone for Danny Rose in that he wasn't named in the Europa League squad. He's very unlikely to be named in the Premier League squad for Spurs, which means that unless Spurs and he decide on a mutual termination of his contract like West Ham did with Jack Wilshere, he's just going to sit there now for a few months until the January window. I can't see anything other than that contract cancellation because it's no help to anyone. He's just going to sit there. Mourinho won't have him anywhere near his first team squad, you'd think, especially if he's not registered to play in any competition. Why would you? And like I said, I just feel sad for a guy that's been at Spurs for over a decade. He's got his critics, he's got his fans. I do genuinely believe everything he's always done has probably been with Tottenham at heart, also a bit of himself, as everyone has to be in life, but also I don't think it's a particularly pleasant way for his Tottenham career to come to an end. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Danny Rose in the next couple of weeks. I do wonder whether that contract cancellation might be the route to go. And that way, as a free agent, I think he can still register for certain squads, but I think it probably would have to happen quite quickly. I'm trying to think when the final registration for free agents is. I'll look it up and I'll get back to you on that one. But yeah, sad to see with Danny Rose. And I hope he gets his career back on track somewhere. But yeah, the window as a whole, you've got to be happy with it, haven't you? I mean, I did find it quite funny yesterday, and I try not to not take the mickey, but I don't often like to comment on opinions because everyone has them. That's the beauty of them and football. But I did think it was quite funny yesterday how excited people were at, I think it was like 6:32 p.m. when Rodon was announced. They did that really clever little video with Bale and Davies, little funny video. And everyone was like, oh, what a window. Levy's pulled off a miracle this year. And Steve Hitcher, they've brought in these players. They've done it on a tight budget. 7 new players. Best squad Spurs have probably had in years. Covering every position, quality, everything. 6:33 p.m. Luis Campos is available. Quick, bring him in to sort out our transfer windows. It's just, and I'm no different. We know how football is. We kind of it's our roller coaster, isn't it? We just want more and more. We're greedy. But I just thought, had that come at the start of the summer, I totally understand it. Luis Campos, one of the best sporting directors in the world, at the end of a transfer window, when I still believe, Chelsea fans probably don't agree with me, but I still believe Tottenham had the best transfer window out of anyone because they fixed so many issues, brought in such quality. They brought Gareth Bale back. I can't stress that enough. They brought the best left back in La Liga. They brought so many good players in. And then we're still saying, oh yeah, but we could bring in Luis Campos. You know, poor old Steve Hitchen. He was appointed technical performance director last month. He is Spurs director of football. And fans, like a minute after they secured their 7th signing, were saying, get him out, replace him with Luis Campos. I think part of the problem as well is, other than the Amazon appearance for Steve Hitchen, fans now are probably just aware of him because of being photographed in Italy, not being able to do the Milan Skriniar deal. And there's so many deals that probably haven't gone through, and there's so many clubs. You know, you look at United's struggles in the transfer window this year. They really struggled to bring people in. Spurs brought in 7. Hitchen and Levy had massive roles to play in that with Mourinho as well. And it's kind of like, oh, let's look to someone else. But it's the same as transfer signings. Of course it is. Remember, Ben Davies said it in the Amazon documentaries. Why do fans always want new signings? Why can't they just let the players here develop? And it's a little bit of that, isn't it? And as, again, I'm massively throwing myself into this mix as well. We're all guilty of being excited about new signings, new names, newcomers, everything. And we kind of forget that to just kind of have a little look and think, well, actually, they're doing pretty well there. They've done well there. That player can develop. And yeah, we all fall into that trap. But I just thought that was really funny yesterday. So Mourinho, though, he is so happy. You know, I was among those putting the questions to him yesterday at his press conference. And it kind of solidified what I'd already been told by people around the scenes at behind the scenes at Tottenham, that he is absolutely purring right now. He admitted it yesterday. He said, I didn't expect for us, in his words, to go as far as we did in the transfer window. He said, we got so much quality in. And the phrase that I love that he used, he said, I look at the players and I see they're excited, but I also see they're worried. And he said, I love that. They're excited at the quality in the squad and know that we can do big things, but they're also worried that they might not play. And that's what drives them on. And he said, and that's what big clubs are. And that's what big clubs have. And I just thought that was brilliant. For me, that was just like, yeah, you know what? That's absolutely nailed it. Tottenham have always had a strong 11, maybe 15 players. They've now got a squad where in every position, people will be fighting for their spot. Even Harry Kane. Harry Kane, probably the most untouchable player in that team. Yet, if he has a little bit of a barren spell, Carlos Vinicius comes in, scores, 2-3 goals. Suddenly, there's a little bit of a clamour of why can't he start? Why isn't he playing? And that's it. Mourinho loves it. And Mourinho, Mourinho, you get to see a lot of sides to Mourinho. We've already seen it as journalists as well. But behind the scenes, people have seen, I've been told he still loves to provoke people. He loves to provoke a reaction of people, test them, challenge them, see what they kind of come out with if he says certain things to them. And we've seen that with Dembele, and we've seen it's going very well. We've seen it with Dele Alli. We've seen it with loads of players. And apparently he does it with staff as well. He's not looking for an argument, but just looking to see how you react and what kind of ways, and measuring up people, a measure of the man or the woman, as it were. But apparently they say that he's just been absolutely, in recent weeks, I think Carlos Vinicius did it myself. Because Mourinho this summer has got pretty much his way a lot of the times. All transfer deals are done between Levy, Hitchen, Mourinho, and there's a couple of other board members as well that are involved as well. And ultimately, a lot of the picks that have been made this year have been Mourinho picks. Vinicius, for me, is the big one. He wanted Vinicius from the start of the summer. Apologies if you heard this before in a previous video, but for anyone watching this for the first time, he wanted Vinicius from the start of the summer. Benfica were quoting Spurs 50 million for him. Then Benfica went out to Champions League. The price came down, and at the end of the window, Levy worked his magic. £2.7 million loan, and if he does well, £38 million permanent transfer. So Mourinho had wanted him. The club looked at like Milik. They'd thought about him. He'd been one that maybe the club as a whole were thinking he'd maybe be a good fit. But Mourinho always wanted Vinicius, and he got his man. And you could just tell it was like a switch flipped. The moment Vinicius came in, Mourinho was sort of like, and now we're a balanced squad. And I think Rodon, as I said before, just like the icing on top of the cake, or the cherry on top of the icing, whichever way you want to say it. And I just think now he looks at that squad and he thinks, right, I don't need to worry about an injury there. I don't need to worry about if this player's not doing it in a match. I've got someone who can come off the bench now and change this game. He's got, if you look at every position in the squad now, you can be happy that there's someone to come in. You could maybe say, I think, well, Mourinho said it best himself. He was asked, did you get all of your targets this summer? He said, almost. He said, but that's football. He said, all football managers will always tell you almost did exactly what they wanted. And that's why, personally, I think it's a 9 out of 10 window, because I think Rodon, while a fantastic player for the future, Spurs clearly wanted Skriniar, but Inter just weren't budging on that price tag. £45 million for a player, and Spurs were looking at around 32 with add-ons, and that's why it didn't happen. They may go back in January, depends on his situation at Inter Milan. But yeah, that obviously would have been the one thing where you could have then looked at the centre-backs and said that's probably the one area where maybe there wasn't quite enough competition. Skriniar would have come straight in and probably been a first choice. Now with Rodon, it's about a little bit more of proving himself and then developing and becoming that first choice. But still, in terms of numbers, there's that cover there. I just look across the squad. There is, as Mourinho says, so much quality. And he had lots of praise for Levy. He said he's really noticed this summer the genius in the way he does deals. And I've heard that as well this summer, that people, even inside the club who know him well, have been blown away by some of the stuff he's managed to do. Because if you think about it, I don't want to harp on about it too much, but it's a tough financial year for everyone and for football clubs. They've had their income streams pretty much switched off. They did for months, and Spurs didn't have a lot of money going into this window. There was a real feeling of, oh crap, how are we going to do this? How are we going to kind of sort this out? And from what I understand, Levy went in there and some of the structures for the deals are incredible for Tottenham. Instalments spread over years and things like that. It's like going to get yourself, you desperately want that new TV or something. Rather than paying a full whack, you get it in instalments. You also get 0% APR, and you're just paying a silly amount a month. And that's what Tottenham have kind of managed to do with a lot of these deals. You look at them, Rodon 11 million. Matt Doherty, 13.5 million for the Premier League's second most creative right back in the past 2 years. Gareth Bale, loan deal on which Levy managed to get Real Madrid to then afterwards ensure that Tottenham didn't have to pay their share of the wages until Bale was fit. And an option for a second year if they want it, which takes him up to the end of his deal. Sergio Reguilon, voted best left back in La Liga last season, Europa League winner, 28 million. Yes, there's the buyback clause, but still 28 million. And he has to agree to go back if he wants to. Joe Hart, I know he's getting his critics, but free transfer, cheaper wages than Michel Vorm. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, because Walker Peters was going in the other direction, essentially Spurs spent an extra 3 million on him. Just incredible. Carlos Vinicius, like I said, £2.7 million loan. It's one of those where if you wanted to be really cynical, you could say, look, bargain basement shopping. These aren't bargain basement, no. They're quality players, and Spurs have just got them at really good deals. As I said in the past, don't get me wrong, Daniel Levy's negotiating no doubt has seen Spurs miss out on players. Skriniar, they were not going to get him from Inter Milan. But in windows like this, when the heat is on, the crunch is happening, the finances just aren't there, I think he's absolutely smashed it, to be honest. I know he's got his critics, and I know he divides opinion, Daniel Levy, but fair play. They've had a hell of a window, Tottenham, and there is a real confidence within the club that they can actually go and do something this season. Mourinho feels it. The players are all talking about it. Joe Hart said the other day, he says, I think the players are starting to realise just how special this squad could be. It's not even just the players that have come in. I've said on Dembele. On Dembele has been like a new signing this summer. Dele Alli, everything from inside Spurs says that he's reacted really well. As soon as he realised he wasn't going to get a loan or anything anywhere, he had to get his head down, completely focus on the task at hand. Apparently his training has been superb. So I'd be really interested to see now, with a point to prove, whether Dele can absolutely smash it as well. And you just look at the quality. The quality is superb. And you've got people that are there already in Kane and Son, banging in goals and laying on assists. And you've got Gareth Bale to add to it all. Gareth Bale, who hopefully we will see come in this summer. I'm obsessed with the summer. I think I'm going to get my head out and get out the transfer windows and the summer now. We'll hopefully see Bale on Sunday. And I think what's lovely about Bale is Mourinho was asked about it, but you can't help to notice it. He just can't stop smiling, Bale. He's gone from a guy that was in a real tough spot, relatively tough. Obviously he's a very well-paid guy, but in terms of his work, he wasn't enjoying his work in Madrid. The players liked him there, but it wasn't happening for him. He's come to Tottenham, and what I've been told about him behind the scenes is that he's actually quite mischievous. He's like a little kid. He's just absolutely loving being back. He's like, I don't know, he's probably like that kid who's left school and comes back to just see what's happening at his old place, and all the other kids remember him, and he's just kind of living it up. And with that enthusiasm, Mourinho said that even Sergio Reguilon has admitted he's like a completely different guy from who he was at Madrid. And this is a guy who was in the dressing room with him all the time in Madrid. So it's wonderful to see. And Mourinho said we'll probably see him against West Ham. If not, it will be Thursday in the Europa League. I don't know about you, but it's so exciting. If you're not looking forward to Sunday enough anyway, with all of the stuff that's going on at Spurs, their form, Kane and Son firing on all cylinders, to see the return of Gareth Bale, I'm so gutted that the fans can't be there. It is just, if there was one moment that cried out for the fans being back at football, it was the return of Gareth Bale. It's such a shame. But it will happen. It will happen. And when they're there, he will get the biggest roar ever. You know it. It will be just wonderful. And Mourinho seems quite convinced that we'll see the Bale of Real Madrid. He was asked that yesterday. He said, what he's seen behind the scenes, you've heard me say this before, that the players have been going home so excited about what Bale does in training and what another level he is. Some of the young players have just been raving about him. And I just think, I think we'll see that player. I really hope we do. Injuries are always going to be the issue. He's got to stay on the pitch. He's got to stay fit. But I think he's not coming into a league he knows nothing about. And I think he will smash it. I just want to say, because I didn't mention him there, Jack Clarke, talk about young players. Jack Clarke stayed at Tottenham. And that was they rebuffed a few inquiries from Championship clubs in the final weeks. And the idea with him is that he couldn't have a better kind of mentor in Gareth Bale and Kane and Son. And they apparently have been really impressed with Jack Clarke in training. Apparently he's been really, really dazzling. So you'd probably expect him to get some minutes in the Europa League, potentially against Stoke in the League Cup as well. And then January they'll look at his situation, whether he goes out. But that's, as I say, what's exciting about Tottenham now is the now and the future. You've got the likes of Sessegnon to come back, Troy Parrott to come back, Oliver Skipp to come back, and the young players currently in the squad. There's a real... Can you just believe how much things have changed within 12 months? Even during the Mourinho era, it was pretty dicey at times. But, obviously injuries played a big part in that, and the football wasn't great. And I think you can just see now what excites me, I suppose, slightly, is that Mourinho's been always given this, there's this style of football he plays, this anti-football, blah, blah, blah. That probably is true at certain clubs, but I think what you're seeing at Tottenham, and I think it happened at Madrid quite on the whole as well, is that he also looks to do the best fit for the players. We know in the big matches he'll change tactics and he'll work against the opposition, but at Madrid, I think Madrid scored more goals during the Mourinho era than I think any other club in Spain were doing, including Barcelona. And I think you're seeing at Tottenham now, He had this little analogy he came out with yesterday about a train. He said, I don't want my players to feel that they're on a train and they can only go in the set destination on the track. He said, I want them to get off the train and have freedom to express themselves. And anyone who has their normal Mourinho concerns is probably thinking, what? What is that all about? Is that really Jose Mourinho? But I think we've seen it this season. Spurs are scoring goals aplenty. We know they've still got to tighten up at the back, and he would want them to. They were after the restart, but it just seems to have slightly gone backwards in some of the games this season. But I just think, you're seeing a real hybrid of a Mourinho team, but mixed with the attacking talent he's got, an incredible attacking talent. He was trying to downplay slightly the Bale, Kane, Son attacking trident, because he was saying, but look at who else we've got as well. You've got Bergwijn, Lucas, Lamela, Ali, And I'm probably forgetting someone there as well. Obviously, Session's gone away, but Lo Celso and Dembele can also play in those attacking positions. And he said there's so much talent. He said that you can't even guarantee any of those players. You can't say Bale and Son will be playing in a team together. It may be that one's on the bench. It may be that both of them are on the bench. And then he said it may be that both of them are having a hot cup of tea in the stands because we've got such a strong team. And I think that's the thing. He's got so much to work with, so many options. We know Mourinho will still find something to moan about this season. He just loves a good moan. But there's not a lot from the club's point of view. They've kind of done everything possible, really, to give him what he wants. And, hey, I think I've said it before. Harry Redknapp said Spurs will challenge for the title. Mourinho said in the first press conference that he expected Spurs to challenge in his first full season with the club. I can certainly see him challenging. I'm not saying that they're going to win the title, but I can certainly see him being up there. If they can get a bit of a run of steam going. We know they've got those tough games. I think it's in November, isn't it, when they really start a little run of tough games against real teams in the top four kind of thing. If they can get a head of steam going and go into that and come out the other side of that in a good place, there's no reason they can't compete on all four fronts. He's got the squad to do it. That's the point. But yeah, get a little bit overexcited now, so I'll wind it down a little bit. And just, Sunday, West Ham United. West Ham are in good form as well. It could all come crashing down on Sunday. West Ham have had some really good results. They've turned the corner. They're picking themselves up. Moyes is no fool. You know, he's a manager who can organise teams. We saw him keep up West Ham before as well. And, Spurs, possibly Bale playing. No Lo Celso, no Tanganga. Eric Dyer's a doubt. Other than that, they've got everyone else to pick from. Players will be at various stages of fitness because of the international break. But they're absolutely buzzing. And I really hope they take that into this game. It will be, you know what West Ham are like in games against Tottenham. They absolutely give everything and they always play well. I think it's 1-1 in terms of wins at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium since it opened as well. Let's see. If Spurs can get through, I think that's a big test on Sunday against West Ham. If they can get through that and it doesn't interrupt all this kind of the momentum they've got, I think they can then really push on. The little run of fixtures they've got until this tough period, there's a real chance to get a head of steam going, but they have to get through Sunday. They can't get carried away with themselves, and we can't either as journalists or the fans as well. But yeah, we're there. We made it to the end of 2 transfer windows. Thank you so much for everyone that's kind of come along on this ride. It's been far more fun than usual, hasn't it? But there's pretty much more to go. I'm not going anywhere. We've got matches galore. It's Tottenham. They're in so many competitions. There's going to be a game. There's pretty much 2 games a week all the time. And I'll be there throughout it, bringing you everything I can from inside the club, my opinions on stuff, and what's happening out there, and obviously engaging with you guys as well. Thanks for all your support. I think we passed, was it last month? I think we passed 1 million views on here, which I'm incredibly grateful for. It's I enjoy doing these, and hopefully this comes across. It's just me chatting Tottenham Hotspur, and I can see by your comments, you engage as well, and that's great to see. And I'd love to hear your opinions on everything. And hopefully we'll have some good stuff to talk about in the weeks and months ahead, and maybe next summer we'll be looking back on one of the most successful seasons Spurs have had in the modern era. I hope so. But yeah, I'll do another video in the week. Hopefully after the West Ham game, maybe Tuesday, we'll have a little look back and see what happened, and look ahead to the rest of the games in the week. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and look after yourselves. I shall talk to you later.